Hello everyone, Ren'Py here bringing you our first Let's Code event. Today we're going to be doing GUI programming, and I don't care if you want to say GUI, I'm going to say GUI. So, yes, it's in Dev Talk. We're in the R Visual Novels server. This is Dev Club channel for it. And I have just created a new Ren'Py project called Let's Code SS. And I have a new Sublime window file open, and I'm going to open all my script files. Now we're only going to be using two of these files right now for the GUI programming. The first one is GUI.rpy, and we're only going to change a few lines in here. We are going to, let me check. We are going to set our GUI accent color on line 26 to be all white, so that's FFF, or hashtag FFF. We're going to set our idle color to the same thing. We are going to set our hover color to this thing that I'm going to post in Dev Club right now. That's a nice dark blue. So that's GUI.hoverColor on line 36. What else did I change? We are going to change our font, which, by the way, if you have not already, what I want you to do is take all your Serene Starlight assets that you downloaded and just copy them into the GUI folder of your project. And it will ask you to replace some of them, and that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this actor regular font out of the GUI folder and put it in just the game folder, or you can do, when you do your font, you can put GUI in front of it. So this is our font name. If it will, no, post, damn it.
Having troubles there?
I just copied the wrong thing. So this is the name of our font. We have three fonts in the GUI.rpy file that we're going to be doing. Right now they all say deja vu sans.ttf. You're going to want to change it to either actorregular.ttf or GUI/actorregular.ttf, depending on whether you moved your font or not. So I'm going to go ahead and take my font and move it out to the game folder. And then I'm going to move a couple more things. I'm going to take the choice hover background and choice idle background, and I'm going to put those into the button folder. And it's going to say it has two files with the same names. Go ahead and replace those. And we're going to turn the confirm image into the overlay folder of the GUI, and we're going to replace there as well. That should be it for moving things around. Okay. So there's only a couple more things to change in GUI.rpy, and that's when you get down to the dialog area at line 92. We're just going to change like the text box height and stuff like that. So we are going to change text box height to 210. I just fumbled around until I came upon this number. If you are actually doing this yourself, you'll have to experiment some, but 210 is what I used. And then GUI.nameXPosition on line 107. Instead of being 240, I changed that to 170. And then there's only a couple more things I changed on line 131. GUI.dialogXPosition to be 258 instead of 268, so it's just moving it over a little bit to the left. And then the last change is I did change the GUI.dialogWidth on line 135 to 764 instead of 744. So just making it a little bit wider. So right now, let's go ahead and take a look and see what we have so far, just from importing our assets. So we've got our background on the main menu already. It looks like, to me, I have still the navigation over on the left that has all the buttons, and it still says Let's Code SS 1.0 on the right-hand corner. And when I hit start, it gives me the text box that I want with a nice look to it, and for the name box as well. But, you know, preferences still looks kind of weird. Load still looks kind of weird. About screen, we're not going to actually use. But that's it for the GUI.rpy file. So the next thing we're going to do is start changing the screens code. I'm waiting for somebody to be excited about this.
Yay!
Okay. So we're gonna go into the screens.rpy, and the first thing we're gonna change is actually pretty far down at the bottom. It's gonna be the confirm screen. That is that's the quick menu, that's the navigation. That's the preferences, we're almost there.
1134.
1134, that sounds about right. Yes. Screen confirm. So what we're going to do is we just need to make a couple changes right here. Instead of doing text buttons, we are going to make image buttons, because we have image buttons to work with. And so we have our yes and no ones. They're just called yes idle and yes hover and so forth. So all we have to do is we have to, instead of saying a text button yes, we are going to say, okay, it was a line 1134 in screens.rpy. And that's where the screen starts. And then the line we're actually going to change is 1160. We're going to change that text button yes to be an image button. So it's going to look like this right here. And the same thing with the no one. We're not going to change the action that it does. We're just going to change what is on the left-hand side of that line. So that will make it so that we have pretty little prompts when we run our code and try to exit early or load saves or things like that. And I'm going to test it just to make sure it works how it should. So if I try to exit the game while it's in the middle, are you sure you want to quit? And you see the frame is there already, and the yes and the no, if you look at them, will change upon hover. And they still work as per usual. So that is all the changes we need to do for the confirm screen. Next up, I'm going to do the navigation screen. We don't have to touch the say screen. We do need to touch the quick menu. But I'm going to do the navigation first because that's what we're going to see more quickly. So my policy whenever I'm changing the screens is when you're in doubt, I'm going to comment like the whole screen out. So from line 294, which is where the screen navigation begins, all the way down to line 332, I am just going to comment that out for now. And you can comment that out by selecting it all in Sublime and hitting Control/ / and that will just automatically comment all of it out for you. And the reason I'm doing that instead of deleting it is because you can always delete it later when you're cleaning up, and this will help give us a model for what should be happening here. So it's just like so you don't forget what do we need, basically. So my navigation is really simple. I've made an H box and I've aligned it at X align 0.9, Y align 0.9. And then I have the following that I will. This is my whole navigation screen. Which position? Oh, okay, yeah. Not position, just the X align. Yeah, there you go. So that's what I have for my whole navigation now. And so you'll notice that the extras doesn't do anything. That's because Zura didn't make an extra screen, but you know, we should still be really grateful to her for letting us use this because it's really pretty. What? What, Azura? It is pretty. All right, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in for the navigation. And I'm going to go ahead and say, no, I don't want to purchase Sublime. And then I'm going to go ahead and run it again to see how it looks. A lot of this, if you'll notice right now, there's still the Let's Code SS or whatever you named your project that's being displayed above the buttons, so it doesn't look the best, but we'll get rid of that soon, so don't worry about it. The important part is that it actually works and does everything we should do, like we can load, we can do options, and so forth. Okay. I'm still in screens.rpy, sorry. All of our work from now on is going to be in screens.rpy. Okay, so next I'm going to work on the quick menu because we're just about there already. In there, it starts on line 243 in screens.rpy. And I did not comment out all of this because we need still to have the if quick menu thing so you can turn it off if you want. But I did, and I didn't get rid of the HBox either because it's still going to be in that orientation, but I changed its alignment to be X-align 0.85, Y-align 0.95. Hi, JM Mercury. Oh. You put it on one line. Why did you put it on one line? There we go. So that's my align for the quick menu, HBox. And then I'm basically going to do all the image buttons that we have. So here are our image buttons. Let me get rid of this extra space. So there's that. Those are our image buttons. And those have all four of the possible images. They have idle, hover, selected idle, and selected hover. So it's a lot faster if we do the auto part. So I'm going to pull that stuff and put it in my other screens.rpy file and comment out the other stuff. Okay. Then once again, I'm going to go ahead and check it because I always like to check everything, like every time I make a major change to make sure that it actually works like how I thought it was going to be. And I mean, you guys, I'm just giving you the positions, but if you were doing this for real, you would have to guess at where they should go, or, you know, meticulously look things up on how the mock-up looks, where the pixels should go, and so forth. So, you're gonna have to actually check it a lot to make sure that it looks right when you do this on your own, with your own assets. Okay, Zara, got it. Thanks. Okay, so now everybody's got their quick menu working, right? Maybe? Well, I didn't hear anybody say that they don't have their quick menu working, so. So next up is the main menu, which starts at line, what line is it? It's right below the quick menu, I think. No, it's right below the navigation. It starts at line 369 now. We are going to comment out that part that gives the config.namet and the config.version. So we don't need that. We do need the use navigation. And we don't need this frame pass business because that just darkens things and we don't need that. And yeah, we don't need that. Let's see. I added our let's code image right below where I added the main background. So that's going to be this line right here. That's all you need. And we're going to add that on line 377. So I'm going to go ahead and check this again to make sure I didn't make a weird mistake. And the screen looks pretty good right now, the front main menu screen. If we go to options, it still looks really not right, but we haven't done that one yet, so don't worry about it. And the quick menu is still working right. And so I'm going to go ahead and move on as long as no one else needs it. Okay, so what comes next is... No, you do not need to add anything to that line. You just need to put it on there. And when you run it, you should be able to see it showing up there right by the swish, basically. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is the game menu screen. And really, for this, we're not going to do much with it. We're going to, I mean, it does a lot because it uses navigation and it does some viewport stuff and so forth. The game menu screen is right below, so it starts at line 435 now. We are going to comment out almost all of it. The only thing I'm not going to comment out is the if main menu, key game menu, show action show main menu on line 496. I'm going to leave that there because that doesn't hurt anything. And then I'm going to also change the if main menu that adds the GUI.main menu background. I'm going to get rid of that and the else, and I'm just going to add the game menu background the whole time. So basically what we are doing with this game menu is all we're doing is adding the background now. And therefore it's not going to do much, but yes, Les, I know you don't like UV ports. Okay, so this is what we've got right now for those of you who are watching the video. I just commented out most of the game menu screen and changed it so that it always shows the game menu background instead of sometimes showing the main menu background. And that is it for the game menu screen. We can skip the about screen. We're not going to actually have that displayed, so we don't have to worry about it. Now we're going to go to the load and save screens. This is possibly one of the more difficult ones. Okay, so if we scroll down to where the load and save screens are, we'll notice that it just says use file slots, either load or slave. We're going to still do that, but we're going to add a little bit of extra stuff right there as well inside the load and save ones. So right under use file slots save, we're going to add ourselves a little bit of code here that will basically do the menu. And once again, these alignments and stuff are just what I played around with until I thought it looked good. When you do this yourself with your own assets, you'll need to play around with it as well. But for this purposes, you can just take them as is and then modify them later if you really don't like how it looks. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in my save screen. And I'm going to save that. And then we're going to have almost the same thing in the load screen. It's just going to have different buttons. So here is my load screen, right after the use file slots load screen. And then we're going to have to modify the file slots itself. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to comment everything from the fixed down out in that save screen, in the file slot screen. And we're going to use it as a guide for what we need to have in there. So all the way down to line 696 is going to get commented out. But we can see that we're going to be using this right here, and we're also going to get rid of the use game menu title has a colon after it. We do not need that. We're going to just have it at the same level as everything else. So then we have the same thing as before in that we're going to have a grid again. We're going to have a grid like this. So it's still going to be 3x2 because 3x2 is the default GUI file slots and file columns and rows. And I just did sizing based on what looked good and what I was trying to match Azura's original, her original mock-up of it. Oh, don't worry about being late. I'm gonna post like the whole code eventually, so that even if you miss some of it, we can. Yeah, there's gonna be a video too that will show everything, and I'm gonna upload that to YouTube, probably tomorrow morning. Hey, no problem. I'm glad to be helpful to you guys. So we're gonna do a for loop in the same sort of way that they were doing it the in their grid. So it's gonna still say for I in range GUI file slot columns times GUI file slot rows. Slot equals I plus 1. And we're gonna do it like this. So instead of using the slot style, which has a hover and regular style, I just added the slot in there on the background of the button itself, and then I made a VBox with the file screenshot and the file time on there. So that much, if we do that much, we should have everything except for our numbers. And the numbers are pretty simple to add. So we just need to go back out to the level of the grid. And we're going to add an HBox just with the numbers. And it'll look just like this. And that range is 1.6 because it's not inclusive, and that's just a Python thing. So it's actually going to be 1 through 5. So I'm going to put that on there. Then I'm going to save and take a look at how it looks. This should have both of the load and save options there. What did I do? I did something wrong. Oh, I must have indented it wrong. Where did I go? Yes, I did indent it wrong. There we go. All right, now it's happy. And so when I go to the load, it looks like it should, except what am I missing? I'm missing the, oh, I forgot to put the load buttons in there. Let me just do that. Oops. I showed you guys, but I forgot to put them in myself. So in load, I'm going to put that. And then I'm going to try and make sure that it works right. And you guys can actually make some saves if you want to test it out and see how it looks. Because right now there's no data and it all says empty slot for all of it. And if you go to load from the title menu, you'll notice save is grayed out. That's because we can't save from the title menu. And that's just a way of showing that the button is insensitive because it's a different color. But if we go to the Save Quick Menu option, we now can go back, load options title, and we can save. And I just saved right here, and it made it Thursday, January 25th, and so forth. And it's not quite centered, but it's still looking pretty nice for those of you who are watching the video. And if I load, it'll go back to saying load game, and it'll let me load there, and then it will show me that confirm screen that we did already, and so on. Okay. I think all we have left to do is the options. We're actually making really good time here. Probably because I already did all the positions for you. So I'm going to scroll down to screen preferences, which should be on line 790 now. Bye, Azura. So I'm going to scroll down to line 790. And once again, I'm going to comment all this out and use it as a reference of what I need to make, basically. So all the way down to line 862 or so is going to become commented out. And remember, you can always delete this later when you're cleaning up, so it's not going to hurt anything right now. And we're going to get rid of that colon on the use game menu preferences thing again. We don't have to worry about that. And then we are going to start adding pieces here. Now this is probably the most complicated of the screens because we're using boxes inside of boxes and stuff like that. The first part is still pretty simple though. It's very much like the same, it's just the grid for the buttons that navigate you. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to paste those in. So this should look familiar because we just did almost exactly the same thing before. And if we go look at it now, which I'm going to go ahead and do, we will check and see that it just has options and then back, save, load, title on it. So that's good so far. And then, so what we're aiming for is, let me show it on the video. This is what we're aiming for, and this is based on the mock-up that Azura provided me. Basically, what I want it to look like is, once it comes up, we're going to have a V-box for the whole thing. And inside that V-box, we're going to have an H-box with the display modes and the skip options that are horizontally aligned with one another. Underneath that, we're going to have the 5 sliders, all vertically aligned with one another, taking up the same amount of space. And so in order to do that, we need one outer V-box, and here is your spacing for it. And I just, once again, went with whatever seemed like a good idea to me. So here's our upper H box. And, okay, there's what that looks like. So the display mode and the skip options are the same, except they just have different content in them and they're on different parts of the HBox. But that's what they look like. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that part in. And that goes inside the first VBox that I showed you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at that. Oops, wrong one. No. Go away. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the options here. And you'll notice that if it's down, way down, as opposed to how it looked on the video when I just showed it. That's because we haven't added the lower part yet. So it's aligning the whole thing based on what you give it. And so because the whole thing is not there yet, it doesn't look right quite yet. But the HBox itself, despite being in the wrong place, looks right together. And then, so in order to get the right look for the rest of it, I actually had to put an HBox underneath in that outer VBox again. And so I just have an HBox in there with the spacing of 30. And then in there I have two VBoxes. One has the text and one has the bars. And that's so that everything will line up nicely. And here is my HBox. My second HBox that goes in the VBox. Yeah, it's pretty big, but that's mostly because it has these plus and minuses in there. I spoke with Azura about how she wanted it to work. And so what's this right now will do regular sliders with just plus and minus on the sides of them. And that's what she decided she wanted, rather than having the plus and minus be how you actually incremented and decremented the bar. So that's what we're doing. But if you wanted to have it increment or decrement the bar, you would basically look up the equivalent preferences and so forth. So for the text speed, for example, you would have your action for your minus, for example, as set field. I'm typing this out right now. You'd have it be set field preferences, and it's called text CPS, characters per second, and you would set that to be the maximum of 0 and the preferences dot text CPS minus 0.05 or something like that, because it goes, oh no, minus 5, because it's text per second. It goes from like 0 to 200 or something. So that would be that if you wanted to make it so that the minus sign would put the preference down. It's an alternate way to do things, but that's just not how we're going to do it today. Just keep it in mind if you decide you want to do things differently. Okay, so with that added in, I think we might be done. Let me check and make sure that it looks right. Oh, we forgot one thing. So take a look. If you take a look at how it looks right now, it looks crazy. And that is because we did not set up our style properly. I forgot to do that. So we need to add one more piece. And that's going to be, you can put that at the bottom or the top of the preferences screen, wherever you want. But we are going to make a style called pref bar that we were using in our bars there. We were using it without defining it. So we're going to do this. I put it right above the preferences screen, but you can put it right below too if you want. And we're just going to put that there. And that is the style we will use. And I did a style because I didn't want to type that all out every time. The XY size is just the size of the slider image itself. So I just use that. So let's try that now. Okay, that looks pretty good. I can move the sliders. And you'll notice that the bar goes away when it's there because the bar empty.png is just a transparent image. So if you get rid of it entirely, you can still just click somewhere else on the bar for it to jump back to the right place. So it's all good. So we don't have to worry about that. And I think we are done with the coding for it. So at this point, I want to open up the floor for any questions about what we did and why and things like that. And then we can have any discussion about what you guys want to do next week. Or if you guys have any feedback, I'd be happy to hear that too. Nobody? Really?
Not me. Although I think it's worth saying that if you were streaming this, I think that would be really nice.
Yeah, I can't stream it because my internet is so sucky. I tried streaming once before when I hit 100 subscribers, and it was just so laggy that I couldn't communicate with people at the same time. So,
Oh, that's a shame.
yeah, it really is. Okay, so the process of making this yourself from scratch is very similar. It's just a matter of trying to figure out what is the best alignment or position, or how do I get what I want for that. So, I mean, really all you need to do is start experimenting with different things with the screen language, and you'll start getting really good results, assuming, of course, that you have good assets. If you have really crap assets, then I'm sorry, I can't fix it for you. I can't do draw. I can't draw, Les. Anyway, so does anybody have any questions or suggestions of what they would like to do next week?
Viewports.
Viewports. Oh, okay.
No, I think we can do something easier.
Okay.
For the sake of everyone,
Yeah.
and especially my civic.
Okay, well, since nobody has any suggestions at the moment, I mean, I will be taking suggestions whenever you want. So, I mean, you can DM me or you can talk to me in Dev Talk or Dev Club and just be like, hey, how about this? But for now, I'm going to go ahead and stop the video and we'll be more or less done. We can just chat after that or whatever. But thanks for everybody for coming to the Let's Code, and I hope we turn this into a successful event.